good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for coming to the last class of course 6 on the Diamond Cutter Sutra. I can't believe we're at 10 classes already. It seems to me like it's been going quickly. I hope it's been going whatever pace you wanted for yourself. So before we get started, this is our last opportunity to together as a group, to each of us set our motivation for being here in this course, being here today in this class. So be very clear in your heart and in your mind about what you're planting seeds for. What future is it you'd like to see? Your thoughts in this next hour and a half can create that future, can be a cause for that future. It's not magic or woo-woo, it's just the way it is. Imagine being the kind of being that could truly help all living beings in the universe to perfectly know how to benefit others, to perfectly see everything anyone might need, to perfectly teach what it is each person needs to hear to help them. Sashi Puki Jukshin Meto Tram Rira Blingshin Yinde Gampadi Sangye Shingru Mikte Owarki Dokun Namdak Shingna Tuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chishe Ki Pe Sunam Ki Trola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chiran Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chishe Kipe Sunam Ki Jola Penchir Sangye Juparsho Sangye Churan Soki Chuknam Changchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chishe Kipe Sunam Ki Dola Pinchir Sangye Drupasho. So before we get started on our last class, does anyone have any questions from previous classes? Okay, so you can pretend to not know what I'm talking about, and I will pass along the teachings and allowing me the good karma to uh, collect the good karma, passing along teachings. You're all very suspicious. Oh, there is a question. At least there's a question mark. Oh, when you dream during, oh, here we go. In my dream during sleeping is a seed opening to create that dream. Uh, yes, everything we experience is a projection that comes from a karmic seed ripening in your mind. Every dream, every thought, every weird idea, every good idea, uh, every emotion, uh, everything we experience is mental image based on a karmic seed ripening. Thank you for your question. So we're going to continue along those lines in this class today because we're talking about how things can be empty and still function. So let me pull up. Nope, those are my notes. There we go. Huh. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, please repeat after me. Chi nam hong kyang jache tepa. Chi nam hong kyang jache tepa. So jache means the way things work. The way things work. And tepa means proper or correct. Shanam, you know the word sh, I think we've used this many times. It can mean thing, it can mean dharma with a capital D, like the teachings of the Buddha. Uh, it can be dharma like uh, just all existing things. And nam, with this spelling, it means it's a pluralizer. So it's talking about all existing things here. This chanam, all existing things, all dharmas. Hong kyang, tong, we've talked about, like that's this main subject matter of this course, is tompani, right? Uh, emptiness. So tong means empty. Tongpa is another way of saying. Kyang is one of those words that you have to see in context. Usually it means but. But here in this sentence, it means even though, nevertheless. That may be an English idiom, nevertheless, because I don't see translators' lips moving. Even though. So, tong kyang means even though empty. So everything, everything works correctly or properly, even though empty. Even though all objects are empty, everything still works. And we know that from the highest school point of view, if we put that hat on, we say because things are empty, they function properly. What we're doing in this class is we're working a little bit with the lower philosophical schools who can't quite grasp what the highest Buddhist philosophical school says about emptiness. These lower schools think that the consequence branch of the middle way has gone too far by saying that everything is a projection. So by using even though, by using kyang instead of cheer, because it's our first indication that what we're doing today is we're trying to help those who have the point of view of a lower philosophical school, a view of the way things are that is almost correct, but not quite. So that's why we say, even though. So the hat that we're, let's say we're speaking from to those who hold a lower philosophical view is the Uma Telngirpa. Uma means middle way, Uma, and Telngyur, this is a word from logic, from debate, where when you're debating someone and they say something a little bit crazy, you respond by giving them an absurd consequence of their claim. So that's what a telngyur is. And then pa is the ending that they use in Tibetan to indicate a person. So here we're talking about a person of the consequence branch of the middle way, the highest Buddhist philosophical view. So if we look at how things work, it's helpful to look at a couple of examples. We can look at medicine and say, does medicine function? Does it work perfectly, properly, correctly? And if we take the example of aspirin, does everyone who takes aspirin feel relief from pain? Let's say that you've got several people in a room and everyone has a headache and everyone takes some aspirin. Will everyone's headache go away? We don't know. With our highest philosophical hat on, we say it depends on their karma. It depends. Did they create the seeds to have an experience of medicine relieving their headache? Have they created those kinds of seeds? Have they helped others who were in pain to feel some comfort, to get some relief from their pain? So we can't say no, and we definitely can't say yes, because we see that not everyone's headache is cured by aspirin. Like when we go into a store and we go into the pharmacy store and we look at the display case for pain relief. I don't know about in your country, but even in my little town in the middle of the desert, the display is quite large, and there are so many different kinds of medicines, each of which purport to cure pain. And people get attached to one kind or another kind. Oh, this one works for me. This one doesn't work for me. This one works for me. That has nothing to do with the medicine. That has nothing to do with what's in the bottle, whether or not some pill works to relieve your headache. And it has everything to do with what kind of seeds you created in your past experience, right? When Geshe Michael was teaching about karmic relationship in business, this is before the creation of DCI. He was teaching us at Diamond Mountain, and he used the metaphor of a stapler. And he said, if you want the stapler to work, to staple pages together, you have to load the stapler. You have to put staples inside the stapler. It doesn't function without staples. So likewise, if we want to live in a world where we have easy access to medicines that relieve our headaches, our pains, best to always be concerned about how others are feeling. How can we help those who are in pain? How can we help? So Kunsop Dempa. This is Kunsop Dempa means it's one of the two truths, right? About appearances, how things appear to us, and then about how things exist. What is the nature of things' existence is the other truth, ultimate truth. So this one is some people call it relative truth. It just means those things that are appearing to us, pens and bookcases and glasses of water, which I forgot to fill, and thunder in the sky. We're in the middle of a rainstorm here. Computer monitor in front of me. All of those things are, to an ordinary person, to a person who's not a Buddha, to a person who is an Arya who is not in the direct perception of emptiness at the moment. And then to those who are like me, who have not yet had a direct perception of emptiness, these appearances appear in a deceptive way. These appearances deceive us. All appearances, each and every appearance, deceives us in a way. And that, not recognizing that, and then not understanding what the deception is. So first, recognize we're being deceived. Second, understand what that deception is. We create our future suffering. All our actions, all our thoughts, all our words create our future suffering. So what this sutra is about is cutting through that deception to have wisdom, to have the understanding of how things exist, how things appear to us, and how they exist. I mean, even those of us who study these teachings, we live our lives, if we're not being very careful about our thoughts, if we're just sort of on, let's call it autopilot, you know, like today I'm just going to take a little break from thinking about the Buddhist teachings all the time. I'm just going to get up, brush my teeth, feed the kids, go to work, go shopping later, come home. In each and every tiny aspect of those actions, as ordinary as those actions are, thinking that using a toothbrush, and I don't have a toothbrush here, I didn't know I was going to talk about brushing my teeth, just holding a toothbrush, bringing a toothbrush to our teeth and brushing, that's all a projection. It all comes from seeds that are ripened, seeds that we planted in the past by what we said and thought and did. Walking to the kitchen to feed the kids. The experience of moving from one space in our home to another space in our home comes from us. That simple movement, those simple movements are projections that we create. Driving in a car or catching a cab to go someplace, that's everything that we experience about it, from holding the door handle on the car and pushing a lever or lifting something and pulling the door out to open it so we can get in and sit down. Each aspect, all of that, all of it, the idea of opening a door, the idea of sitting down, the idea of getting in, all of that is a projection. All of it. Going to work, thinking that if I do a good job at work, sometimes people think if I just show up at work, I'll get paid. They will pay me. I make either X dollars or X, whatever your currency is, every hour, or I make so much money for every project I do, or I have a salary, so they pay me so much money every month. We think that because we have a job or a contract that we will get paid, and that our showing up and doing the work is the cause of us getting paid by somebody else. That's not what's going on. Not at all. Our experience, even our thoughts about that experience, as incorrect as they are projections from seeds ripening in our mind. I mean, we know, like with the medicine, not everyone who has a job gets paid, right? Companies go out of business every day. Every day on this planet, there are thousands of people who aren't going to get paid for the work they did. There's also people who get paid for no reason at all. Like, I just got money deposited into my bank account from something that I had no idea even existed. And it just appeared in my account. It's like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't do anything at all. On, to my memory, I must have done something like, let's put our middle way hat back on. I must have done something in the past to be generous with other people when they weren't looking, right? I must have slipped some money into someone's pocket or purse or something like that. So they went home and opened it up and went like, oh, wow, look at this. Where'd this come from? I must have done something like that. But people who have not been exposed to the Buddhist teachings don't think along those terms about things being a projection, or that their past actions and thoughts and deeds are what created the causes for what they're experiencing in the present moment. So people who have not heard any teachings think that money comes from a job or from a rich relative or from a good investment. If I play the stock market just right, I can make money. But that has nothing to do with it. Making money from the stock market has nothing to do with what strategy you use to invest your money. Nothing. How many newspapers on this planet spend precious time printing, oh, this is the best strategy. In this kind of market, we see that people are thinking, oh, things are going to get worse. So when people are thinking this, the best strategy to make money or protect your money is to do Y. No, it's not. No. Only if you've loaded the stapler. Only if you have created the seeds for having the experience of the money you have increasing, right? Only then a strategy is not something that functions. Some people use the strategy and their investment increases. Some people use the strategy and their investment decreases. That's not what causes increased wealth in the stock market. The best investment is being generous with those who need your generosity. The best strategy, and you can think of our actions, our thoughts, our words, our deeds, it's our capital. It's like our money, and we want to invest our actions in a way that will bring us the highest returns, right? That's why we do motivation at the beginning of the class. The strategy that works is to put our actions into use in a way that will bring us the highest results most quickly. And that's, we talked about in the karma course about ways we can do that. We find the object or the person that is the highest karmic object, meaning the object that if we are kind to them, or if we help them, if we serve them, if we wash their dishes, if we do something to benefit them, will provide us the biggest result, because they're a high object for us, whether that's our parents or our heart teacher, our children, someone who is starving or at risk of being harmed or killed, and we're the ones who can help them. Those kinds of objects. That's the only strategy that we need to employ when we're investing our karma. And if we want to be specific and say, how can I have money? How can I have the money I need? And just from my own experience, being very specific about what that money is going to be used for. Like, I need money so that I can have a place to live that has a room where others who are traveling and need a place to stay can stay with me, and I can serve them and feed them. And like, you be very, very clear about why you want more money. You don't just want more money. Well, maybe you do, but that's kind of silly, because it doesn't come with you life to life. So what we normally think, like if we take this day off and just like not think about why we see what we see, why we experience what we experience, what is it exactly that's going on when we experience what we experience? we're just creating negative seeds. We can still go through our day-to-day life and have in our minds just to question, is what I'm experiencing, is what I'm seeing, is what I'm hearing, is what I'm tasting, is what I'm feeling, is that coming from me? Is that coming at me? Just that question. Does the experience of walking across the room, does the experience of being in one space, going through another space, and arriving at another space, what's going on there? What's really going on there? Have I moved? Or is it that my projections are changing and I'm labeling the experience of being in one space, the experience of being in a slightly different space, and then a slightly different space? Did I take all these data points along the journey from one place to another? Did I take all those experiences and group them together and label it walking across the room? So we're talking here about we're talking about how things work. Everything that does something. I mean, it's sort of easy when we talk about a pen, right? To say that, oh, this is, I experience this as a pen because I help someone else like take note of their ideas or write something down so they wouldn't forget it. And it's easy to think about that. It's more challenging to apply that same idea to feeding ourselves, to walking across a room, to picking up a glass of water and taking a drink, to feeling refreshed from having done so. That all of that also, all of those actions are empty of having any nature from their own side. If they were not empty, then we could not move. We could not take a drink. We could not have various types of experiences that we know based on our own past experiences that sometimes we feel good and sometimes we feel bad. Our experience fluctuates. We know this. That's why being a human being is the best place from which, part of the reason why being a human being is the best place from which to study and practice the Dharma and reach enlightenment. Intelligence is another is another aspect. The ability to learn. Some beings can't do that. So our projections, as Vivi's question uncovered for us, like even dreams, we're not awake, we're not conscious. Some people know how to be conscious in their dreams and do what they call lucid dreaming, but most of us, we're unconscious, and our dreams are like something happening to us, but it's our karmic seeds ripening into a projection that we call a dream. The rain falling from the sky is just a projection. The sun appearing to rise is a projection. I mean, even physicists know that, right? Because the sun is not rising. The earth is rotating on its axis and also going around in orbit around the sun. That's what's really going on, but we call it the sun rising. But even the earth spinning and orbiting around the sun, that's our projection. And because it's empty, that's why the earth can spin. That's why the earth can be in orbit around a sun. That's why we have life on this planet at all, is from our projection. So we take individual pieces of movement of something, like with the sun rising, we see the sky start to lighten from being dark. Then we see a tiny bit of very bright light at the horizon. And then we see a little bit bigger arc of light. And then a little bit bigger. And then half an arc. And then 3/4 of an arc. And then a full round shape of light. And we string all that together and call it dawn, sunrise. There is no dawn. There is no sunrise. That exists independent of our projections and our mental image. So deceptive reality. Kunzo in Kunzo Dempa, that means to deceive. a deception. And a deception is when someone like tells you one thing and actually does something else, right? They're being deceptive. Like you go out on a date with someone and they're very pleasant and they may, I think everyone does this on a first date. They're slightly deceptive in putting their best face forward. We call it in English. In looking, I don't know, in acting more interesting than they normally are, or slightly embellishing their past. So we know deception. We know, we've experienced being deceived by people before. And we're being deceived, if you're like me, in every moment. In every moment of the 66 years I've been around here, every moment I've been deceived. And so what if I've been deceived? What does that mean in Buddhist philosophy? Nangsul dang netsul mitunpa. Nangsul, that means the way things appear. The way things appear. Netsul, the way they are. Mitunpa. They're not the same. Not the same. So the way things appear and the way they are, they don't jibe. They don't match up. Things appear to be coming this way, having nothing whatsoever to do with me. The way they are is coming from a mental image in my mind, from a seed ripening from what I did in the past. They're coming this way. So that's the deception. Nangsul bang netsul mitunpa. That's why everything is ordinary things, appearances, all things we experience are deceptive. That's kunso. Now, I talked just a tiny bit about how different Buddhist philosophical schools have different ideas about what does emptiness mean? What does it mean to say that things don't have a self-nature? And each one of the schools has a different idea. And it's, I think, important for our own practice to understand the different ideas that these schools have. Not so that we can be smart Buddhists, like, oh, yes, well, I know what Svatantrika thinks about this. Not like that. Not so that we can be intellectually smart, but so that we can catch ourselves in our daily life and the mistakes we make and apply the corrections that the highest school provides. so that we can understand things correctly. So we can have the wisdom that understands the nature of reality, so we can get to that chucho, so we can get to that highest point and see ourselves creating our reality. Okay, so the lower schools called the functionalists. There are three of the schools grouped together are called functionalists, and that's because they think so. It's the detailists, the sutrists, and the mind-only school. Those three philosophical schools. They think that if something does something, that means it's real. It has some reality to it. It has some sort of nature to it that allows it to perform that function. Okay, so that group of people, or we could say those ideas, when they look at deceptive reality, they say, well, there's two types of deceptive reality. We have to talk about two different types of deceptive reality. The first one is called Yangdak Kunso. Say Yangdak Kunso. Yangdak Kunso. And Yangdakpa, that means right or correct or proper. So we've got something that they call correct deceptive reality. And then they say there's something called Lokbe Kunzo. Say Lokbe Kunzo. Lokbe Kunzo. And Lokba means wrong or false. So there's correct deceptive reality and there's false deceptive reality. And the examples that they use for these two types of deceptive reality, in the first one, correct or right deceptive reality, they use a pool of water or a lake. Let's say a lake. A lake is an example of correct deceptive reality and an example of Lokpa Kunso, of false deceptive reality, is a mirage. Right? When you are in the desert, we have a lot of mirages here when you're driving in the desert on a straight road and you see what appears to you to be water on the road. And of course, you never reach the water. It's an optical illusion. So these functionalist schools say there's correct deceptive reality. There's a lake. It's got water in it. Right? It's a geographical area with water in it. And then you've got a mirage. It's an optical illusion. Looks like water. It's not water. The water in the lake functions as water. The water that appears to be existing on the road in a mirage does not function as water. So they say There's correct and incorrect or false, deceptive reality. Now, the consequence branch, if we put, I mean, this is the way normal people think, right? Someone who's never heard about Buddhism would say, what's wrong with that? Of course, a lake has water in it. A mirage has no water. That's the way it is. That makes perfect sense to me. But the consequence branch of the middle way says, don't be ridiculous. They both are deceptive in that neither one of them exists independent of your projections. To someone of the consequence branch of the middle way, a lake does not. Well, let's put it this way. To someone who has seen emptiness directly, to an Arya, after they have seen emptiness directly, driving in a car, looking at a lake, they know that that's deceptive. They see a mirage in the road, equally deceptive. The mirage is also deceptive. So the consequence branch says to the functionalist philosophical schools, you don't need to make this distinction. Both correct and false deceptive realities are equally deceptive in that they appear to exist one way. They appear to exist in a way that is different from how they do exist. Right? So now we'll talk about the emptiness of, we've talked about the emptiness of action. So now we'll talk about the emptiness of cause and effect. When we use the word nominal or in name only, you most likely have a very similar phrase in your language. It means that there's something about it that it doesn't work the way it seems to. So if we say, for example, that like we get a lot of news these days that, oh, this or that company is going to build a new manufacturing plant and they're going to invest billions of dollars in the economy. And it's like they make a promise to do something, but then they don't do it. So the promise of investment in the economy was in name only. It was nominal. They only talked about it. They didn't do it. Or say you have, let's say that you're on a board of an organization, and people who are members of the board, there are some people who are officers, right? And they've got particular titles like president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, financial officer. And let's say you have someone who has a title, vice president, but they never do anything. They never perform the duties of the vice president of an organization or of a corporation business. So that would be a person who is vice president in name only, nominally. They have the name, they have the title, but they're not functioning as a vice president. So lower schools get a little bit tripped up on this idea in name only. And it's, we're just going to brush on the idea or just sketch the idea. It's worth it to study this more in depth. Lower schools say, when you say nominally, when you say in name only, you don't mean really. Just like I just described, like in normal, everyday, people who've never studied Buddhist philosophy, language, that's what we think, in name only. When you say in name only, it means not really, not truly. Our friends in the consequence branch of the middle way say, hold on, you got it exactly backwards. In name only, nominally, means really. That is how everything exists. Everything exists in name only. And that's why things can do whatever it is they do. Lower schools say illusions are not real. Like an illusion means it's not real. Where the higher school says everything is illusory. And that is real. That is the way they are, illusory. So the same thing about cause and effect. Lower schools, particularly, there's a question about this on your homework. And if you're doing the Tibetan track on your homework, I've put it all out here. I'm not going to read it to you, but this is the Tibetan you can use for that question. And this is the belief of the independent branch of the middle way school. So it's the middle way school is broken up into two branches, the independent branch and the consequence branch. And the independent branch, they say, yeah, okay, we agree things don't have a self nature, but we can't really accept that they have no nature whatsoever. There's got to be something about things that suggest what they are. Otherwise, how could you plant a seed and get a result that you expect to get? How can you, if there was nothing about a seed that produced, let's say what you want to grow is pineapples. If there's nothing about a seed that has some pineapple-ness about it, then you could plant any seed and get a pineapple. Wouldn't matter. There has to be some, but you can't. You have to plant this kind of seed. You have to plant a pineapple seed in order to get a pineapple plant. Very clear. There's something about the seed, some bit of nature of what you expect to get in that seed and in the result. And they're two different things. The seed is one thing. The pineapple plant it creates, that's something else. We agree with you there. They are two different things. But there is something about them that is pineapple-y. They say results have some nature of their own, and which come from causes which are something other than the results that also have some nature of their own. So what they don't understand in the independent branch of the middle way is that cause and effect, that's also a projection. If a seed produces a pineapple, that's your projection. You project everything about it, the seed, the planting of the seed, the watering of the seed, the conditions that allow the seed to sprout and then to grow into a pineapple. Every single thing about that you project. There's nothing pineapple-y about the seed that you plant other than what you project. They have a hard time with it. They think that the consequence branch has gone too far by saying that even cause and effect is just a projection. They are fully taken in by the illusion, the deceptive nature of cause and effect. Yes, it's all a projection. And you can, I should have used a mango as an example, because I discovered when I was in Vietnam last year that I had never had a mango before, really. Because the mango I had in Vietnam, oh my gosh, it was the most heavenly tasting thing I've ever had in my life. It was amazing. Totally unlike any other mango, so-called mango, I've ever had before in my life. Anyway, so we can eat, we can say everything is my projection. Each part of that planting of a seed and watering and giving sunlight and sprouting and growing into a pineapple, that's all a projection. We can We can still have the projection of harvesting the pineapple, and have the projections of cutting up the pineapple, and have the projections of eating the pineapple, and have the projections of becoming full from eating a pineapple. It functions. That's okay. Don't be so hung up on if things work. They must have some sort of self-identity. There must be something real going on. So then after now we've looked at the emptiness of action, the emptiness of cause and effect, and now we'll talk about the emptiness of karma. And we're going to talk about this from the mind-only school point of view. The mind-only school, every school of Buddhism, I'll just back up for a second. Every single one of the schools of Buddhism say there are 6 consciousnesses. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness. All schools agree. The mind-only school says, now wait a minute. There's actually 8 consciousnesses. And the big one that they claim exists is called kunshi. Say kunshi. Kunshi. This is in Sanskrit alaya vijnana. Alaya vijnana. Kunshi is, if you've heard Geshe Michael over the past few years, he's been calling kunshi a refrigerator, and a refrigerator that holds the karmic seeds. So the mind-only school, based on Buddhist teachings, Buddha did teach this, that there is a consciousness in which when we do some action and we create seeds, they're called bakchaks. They get planted somewhere. Mind-only school says we have to have a place where these seeds live, where they stay, where they grow. The other consciousnesses, like we've talked about today, sometimes we are conscious, sometimes we're not conscious of our consciousness, right? Sometimes we're sleeping. And definitely the other 5 are fleeting. We're not, our visual consciousness isn't always going on. Our taste consciousness isn't always going on. Auditory consciousness, same thing. They seem to fluctuate, right? Whether or not they have an object. So mind only says there has to be a consciousness that always is happening. That's why it's called a foundation consciousness. It's always happening. There are 8 reasons why they say there has to be a consciousness, but this kind of consciousness, the kunchi. But the big one is that the karmic seeds need a place to be, a place to stay, especially as you go from life to life. As this life ends and the next life begins, how does your karma stay with you? A lot to talk about in stay with you, but we don't have time, and that's not what this class is about. So they say there's the kunchi. Here's a word for the mind-only school, tsimtsampa. They say there's this kunchi, and this is where the bakchaks, the seeds that we plant when we do something, karmic seeds, that's why we have a kunshi. And the consequence branch of the middle way says, you don't have to go to all this trouble and create a whole new kind of consciousness for the seeds to live. That everything is your projection. The consciousnesses are your projection. Your seeds are coming in and out of existence as projections, constantly coming in and out of existence. It's all your projection. That's no problem. Things still work. You still can have a relationship between something you did in the past and something you're going to experience in the future. You know, this relationship between doing something that benefits somebody else and experiencing a result that you find pleasant, or conversely, doing something that harms somebody else and then having an experience later of dissatisfaction in some way, suffering, pain, disturbance, whatever it may be. That we project that that's what's going on, the relationship between actions and consequences. The karma, seeds, the growing of the seeds, the ripening of the seeds, that this action will have this kind of result. That's all a projection. And that's okay. It's kind of like the consequence branch of the middle way is saying, like, what, hey guys, like, what's your problem? Yes, things can be projections and they function. No problem. You don't need to have some concrete reality, because once you introduce that there's some concrete reality, once you say a seed has some sort of pineapple-ness about it, or there has to be some other consciousness that always exists, then you are going against what the Buddha said, and that all things are empty of having a self nature. The only way things, like going back to the beginning of our class, although things are empty, they work perfectly well, right? And now the consequence branch says, because things are empty, and only because things are empty, do things work perfectly well. We just had a clap of thunder here. I kind of like to think that that's all the bodhisattvas are around going, yay, you guys are talking about the important stuff. So that, so the ultimate wrong view, the danger, we kind of talked about it last time when we talked about the two cliffs. The ultimate wrong view is thinking that because things are empty, I can do anything at all. My actions don't matter. But that is falling off the cliff of thinking that nothing exists, so nothing matters. Thinking that I don't have to keep my vows, or I don't, even if you don't have vows, I don't have to be nice to other people. I don't have to think about other people at all, because everything's empty. It doesn't matter. When we do that, we're creating our own future suffering. When we focus on ourselves, we are creating a miserable future existence if that's all we're focused on, to the harm of others. Um, and the problem is, as Arya Nagarjuna said, the biggest, I think he called it a tragedy about karma, is that it's so deeply hidden. We cannot see it. We, I mean, we understand its general workings. It makes some sense to us that by doing some good to someone, for someone, that we will receive some future good result. That there would be, I mean, we all, like, we send our kids to school. We think that by sending our kids to school, they'll learn to read, they'll learn to write, they'll learn to work well with other kids. And we think that's a good thing, that will serve them well in their life. And in our experience, we can see um, uh, societies that have good education for their kids generally have, you know, more well-adjusted adults in their society. So we do generally hold that there is some sort of karma. It makes some sense to us, but we don't see the details, like what specific result comes from which specific cause. And that's why so many of the Buddhist teachings are about telling us what to take up and what to give up. What to take up, what will bring us positive experiences in the future, and what to give up, those things that will cause us negative experiences in the future. And we have to go on faith in the Buddha based on everything else that the Buddha said. I mean, we do have to evaluate, is this person trustworthy? Is it right for me to put my trust in what the Buddha says? And I mean, it's up to each one of us to make that determination. But we can try it out sincerely, keeping our vows well, and see what kind of results we experience in the future. So we only have 2 minutes left, and what I wanted to do is just read to you, or actually, I'll read it to you, but then also, if you could also say it, because it will plant very strong seeds. This is the end of the Diamond Cutter Sutra. This is a verse of impermanence and emptiness. Karma rabbe marme tam, yuma silpa chubertam, milan loktam trim tabu, duche chunam detata. Please say karma, rabrib, marme, tam, yuma, silpa, shuber, Tang, Mila, Lok, Dang, Trin, Tabu, Duche, Shunam, Detarta. This is a beautiful little poem. See anything brought about by causes as like a star, an obstruction of the eye, a lamp, an illusion, the dew, or a bubble, a dream, or lightning, or else a cloud. And in your reading for class 11, which doesn't really exist, you'll see Chuni Lama talk about what each of these metaphors means. But the tradition is of reciting this poem. The monastics do this when we have sojang, which is our practice of confession, our ritual of confession. And when you finish saying it, you snap your finger. Which is just a reminder that this is not just a pretty poem, but like the snap of a finger is very fast. This had a huge thunder. I don't know if you heard it. It's very fast and then it's gone. Totally gone. Like that, all things are illusory. And like that, our illusory course 6 with ACI has come to an end. And I thank you with all of my heart for being interested in this course, for taking this course, for your patience with me. Thank you to the live translators for your amazing, extraordinary efforts and work. And I rejoice at the amazing karma we've all created in studying this together. Thank you, Geshe Michael, for putting this course together. May we each see emptiness directly as soon as possible. May we each realize our highest dreams of benefiting each other. I love you. Please stay in my life. Please have a wonderful evening, a wonderful afternoon. And
Yeah.
and I'll be teaching course 7, which is the Bodhisattva vows next. So thank you. And see you next time.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, Van Utpala. Thank you
Thank
all.
you so much, Venerable Utpala.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
so
all.
much, dear teacher. We love you.
Yay, I love you too.
Please stay, Venerable.
Okay, bye-bye.